When I was a kid, and I'd go camping with my family, there's a few things that my parents would always take. I'd always see these items whenever I'd go camping. First one, and you've seen my video about it before, was my mom's Western knife. And this is something I inherited. I love it. Like, the features of this thing is so cool. And it just ties me to my mom. I'd always see her wear this when she'd go camping. Never really saw her wear it outside of that. But whenever she'd go camping, this is what would be on her belt. So that's a really cool connection that I can fall back on. Another thing is something that my dad would always bring. And this has got a pretty neat story by itself. This is the iconic Coleman 200A. Now, these things are fairly collectible because they are the icon of the Coleman company. It's a one-mantle lantern. It puts off about 15 feet of light, which in the dark is not too bad. It's more than what you really need, especially if you're going by yourself and you're just thinking about lighting up your one small camping area. 15 feet goes pretty far. Now, of course, you get the glow outside that, but when you're talking about bright light, this goes about 15 feet. Now, this thing has followed my dad camping since he was 17 years old. Now, what does that mean to you? This thing came out in 1967. This thing came off the production line in Kansas in 1967. My dad was born in 1950. So that means he was 17 years old, maybe 18 years old, when this thing was first opened up and used. That's pretty cool. I like that connection. And this is the lantern that my dad took with my sisters when they'd go camping and outdoor adventuring. This is the lantern my dad took when he went fishing. And in fact, I distinctly remember him taking this lantern to go night fishing with my brother. And my brother caught the largest daggone catfish I ever saw in my life at that point in my life. And this is the lantern that they took with them. I was too young. I didn't get a go. That was a father-son fishing trip just for my brother and my dad. So since then, like, I haven't seen this a whole lot since I was a kid. And honestly, I kind of thought it was lost to time. I have no idea what my dad had done with it. And then about last month, I'm helping my mom go through her things because she's trying to downsize. And we're going through some stuff in this old forgotten cabinet in the very back. I'm pulling out things, and here was my dad's lantern. And I was so excited because when I saw it, just a flood of memories came through. I was like, man, this is so cool. I was so excited. And I was like, man, I wonder if it still lights. And it had a little bit of fuel in it. So I went ahead and I put a little bit of oil in the gasket and then pumped it up, and it lit right away. Just like it was when my dad went camping back in the late 90s. I was so excited. And my dad's been passed away now for a long time. And to have that connection, that memory, the familiar smell and the familiar sight of it, it warmed my heart. And that's one of the reasons why I really like collecting vintage camping gear, is because of the stories that they have. And if they could tell the stories, oh man, it could just fill up volumes of experiences and lessons learned. So let's talk about this Coleman lantern. Now, all Coleman lanterns, doesn't matter if it was made in 1967, if it's a white gas lantern that was made today, they all light the same way. And I love the simplicity of it. Now, of course, there's some advancements that happen along the way. And we're actually going to talk about the advancements because this one is much easier to light than my older one that we're going to talk about here in a moment. But it's still basically the same. All lanterns have a couple things in common. They got your knob. Now, these old lanterns, they're either on or they're off. They're not adjustable as far as brightness. To adjust the brightness, you have to use the wire over here. Now, the wire is connected to a pricker, so it opens it up and makes sure that there's no carbon clogging up the generator. And then you have your fuel cap, and you have your pump. Now, your pump, you want to make sure that it's oiled inside, and if it's a leather gasket like the older ones, then you want to make sure that that leather is supple. That way, it can push the air into the tank, or the font, as it's called. Now, to do that, you turn the pump over to the left, and that unlocks it, if you will. You put your thumb over the hole. There's a hole dead center of it, and you pump it 30 times. Now, this one, I think it's previously pumped, because this is probably, I think, my 4th take on this video and I keep messing up. So once it's pumped, grab your lighter. You want to make sure that the wire with the pricker is turned about quarter to halfway open. You don't want it all the way open. And then you light your lighter or your match beforehand. And then you turn on the knob, which allows the fuel. Okay, now that's going to heat up the generator. As it heats up the generator, it's going to take that wet fuel and it's going to vaporize it and turn it into a gas. So you don't want to turn on the wire all the way open until it heats up that generator and gives it a chance to turn into that gas. So you're going to get a little bit of flame. And again, as it heats up, you can adjust the wire to let more gas in and give it a balance. And there you have it. It's all lit. And again, it shoots off light about 15 feet away, which is pretty nice. More than enough for your campfire. And it sounds like a jet engine. This thing just roars to life once you have it going. Now to turn it off, all you have to do is just turn the knob, which shuts off the fuel. Then you can adjust the wire again, put it all the way to the top, and that closes it up. And easily let out the pressure in the tank. You always want to depressurize the tank before you store it away. And it'll eventually go out. That's all there is to it. If you've liked this video, found it useful or entertaining, please click like. That way other people find it. You'll be helping them out as well. We really appreciate it. Now this lantern is the Coleman Quicklite. Now the Coleman Quicklite came out with 2 different models in 1926. Now this particular Quicklite is the larger model, and even this version came out with 2 different versions. Now the first version is one that had the hand pump, much like you saw me use in the camp stoves. And if you haven't seen my camp stove video, check it out on my channel. I've got a couple different videos about the camp stoves. I got the larger one here, and I also have my camp cook. And there's even an article on my website, www.honorableoutfitters.com. So this Quicklite was made in 1926, and it's exciting to me because this is the first year that they introduced the internal pump. The same internal pumps mechanism that we see in modern white gas stoves and white gas lanterns. So it's used exactly the same. However, there's a couple nuances about the Quicklite that I just really like. Mainly, the mica globe here is almost indestructible. Yeah, you can crack it and it gets a little hazy if it gets damaged, but it still lets off a tremendous amount of light even if it's slightly damaged. Now this mica globe is the original globe that's on it, and all I did to clean it was put it in a citric acid bath. Not very long, it was like 5 minutes. Took it out, rinsed it off, and there you go. It's brand spanking new. And this generator. This generator is not the original generator to this lantern, nor is this little wing nut top here. The generator was adjusted probably because the original one, you had to preheat. And we were talking about having the generator heat up to turn into vapor. Well, these old Quicklite, they had like a little curlicue. And you'd have to take a match or a lighter and you would heat up that curlicue just like you would do with the preheat cups of the old camp stoves. Once it's preheated, it turns to vapor and then you can light it. So there's a little bit more of a hassle in that regard. So whoever owned this at some point changed out the little knob and changed out the generator. Probably because of the ease of it. Yeah, you go camping, you don't want to fiddle fart with that. With that new technology, you adjust it, and it's still a lot cheaper than buying a brand new lantern. So that's what a lot of people did. They changed out the generators, and this is what I got. Now, one thing I like about the newer lanterns versus this generator is the wire is a little bit harder to get to. You have to get near the generator to adjust it, instead of it being outside like the newer lanterns are. Now, other than that, everything is pretty much exactly the same. Now you can tell a year about Coleman products in a couple different ways. My dad's 1967 lantern, there's a year stamped on the very bottom. It says 67. So I know that it was made in 1967. This one, you can tell in a couple different ways. Next to the seal of Coleman, which is underneath my fuel cap here, it has the Coleman seal, and then it has two numbers. Now today we generally use month and then year. Well, back then they used year and month, at least on Coleman's products. So this has 6 and 5. So we know that this was made in May of 1926. Now to pump it up, just like the other lantern, you give it 30 pumps. I think that's about 30. I honestly lost track counting. Okay, once you do that, you want to make sure that the wire here moves slightly to the left, and you're going to want something that's either fireproof or like a knife. You could use a stick. You just got to be careful with a stick because sticks catch fire. I'm going to use the safety lighter here. That's what I'm going to use to adjust the wire. So it's a wire that you got to watch out for as far as adjusting on off. And just like the other ones, it has the cleaning prick. So you want to make sure it's good and clean by turning it around a couple times. Turn it to the left, lighting it, and then turning the knob. Yeah, so it lights up like a big ball of fire. And there you have it. Nice, bright lantern. Now they say after you light it, you want to pump it up 30 more times. Since this is just a demo, we're not going to do that. Go ahead and turn it off. To turn it off, all you have to do is turn the knob and you turn the wire. Now this one's a lot quieter than my dad's Coleman lantern, and I think that's pretty cool, and it shoots off light about almost twice the distance. Makes sense, you got two manos on there. Now this thing gets really, really hot. Holding it, you know, it's not too bad, it's not like you're going to burn yourself, but I can feel a tremendous amount of heat that's coming off here. And you also notice that the color changes. Now the color also changes on my dad's lantern. Once it gets hot, it gets a really, really dark red. But it'll go back to normal. And just like the other lantern, you want to depressurize the tank. So that is the 1926 Coleman Quicklite lantern. These things are really pretty, they're really neat. And I'm really excited to have found one and be able to purchase it at an antique store and refurbish it. It wasn't too bad. These Coleman lanterns are all pretty much the same. There's some differences here and there, but as far as repairing and fixing it, it wasn't terrible. There's some rusty areas that I had to use a liquid rust remover to break it down to open up some things. But other than that, you know, a little bit of citric acid worked wonderfully. There's lots of great YouTube channels, but also Facebook groups about how to fix these things. So if you're interested in repairing a Coleman or refurbishing a Coleman, I suggest that you get on those and check them out. Now, here's the question. What type of lantern and fuel should you use? Now, first of all, I still love taking my candle lantern. The candle lantern is what I take and I put next to my bed right before I go to sleep. And sometimes I leave it on and just let the candle go out, and sometimes I blow it out. It just kind of depends. But the brighter lanterns are just really handy, especially in the evening when you know, you're doing some meal prep, or if you're going night fishing, things like that. There's a lot more versatility with having a bright lantern. So do you choose a propane lantern or do you choose a white gas lantern? Now, some of you may be thinking, what about kerosene and what about dual fuel lanterns? I'm going to make the argument that white gas is superior to those for a couple reasons. Now, I know the price of gas is going up. You used to be able to buy a gallon of white gas for about $9–10 bucks, and now it's shot up to about $15. And that kind of sucks. And you can use regular gasoline on any of these lanterns. You just may have to adjust the generator and swap them out, which is pretty cool. But I've had a dual fuel lantern before. I don't like the dual fuel lanterns because they can get kind of gunky if you don't clean them and, you know, prepare them like you should. And that's just kind of a pain in the butt, especially after a camp out. Really, you just want to put things away, of course in good order, so you can use them again. But it's just one more thing. Now, if you use white gas in a dual fuel lantern, you're perfectly fine. There's none of that gunkiness that you have to worry about. But propane bottles are getting expensive. And generally, those propane bottles, the small ones, only last for a weekend. I could fill up the lantern, I could fill up my stove, and generally I am good for an entire weekend. Now, if it's cold weather, that changes things. Of course, if I'm baking something and say like my oven here, that changes things. And if I'm boiling soup, that changes things. But for the most part, for an entire weekend during the spring, fall, and in the summer, right there in the middle, a tank does perfectly fine. I will say that the ease of a propane lantern or stove is certainly better because you can just hook it up, you turn it on, you light it, you can even adjust it high and low. Adjustments can be a little bit trickier with white gas. You don't get to fine tune it as easily, especially with the lanterns. Like I said earlier, lanterns are either on or they're off. You can tweak the adjustments using the wire, but for the most part it's either on or off. So that kind of may sway in the direction of the propane. I guess if you have the money and if you like the ease and convenience, go propane. But you'd have to take several bottles of propane just to make sure that you're good to go. Now you could take a gallon of white gas and do the same, but again, the efficiency of white gas, I would argue, is better than propane. You have a difference of opinion, or if you have some thoughts on the matter of propane, white gas, or even Coleman lanterns, then please leave me a comment below. I'd love to hear you. I'm coming up with a historical article for my website, www.honorableoutfitters.com, about the Coleman lantern, specifically the Quicklite. If you're interested in checking that out, go to my website, www.honorableoutfitters.com, and on there, there's a couple other things you can check out as well. There's a shop on there. There's free sources, so if you like historical books and learning about historical camping, check that out. Those are really good resources. But on there, you can sign up for my monthly newsletter. My monthly newsletter will have the historical article, including some exclusive pictures and photos, and a few extra details. You'll get channel updates and even get updates about the ongoing projects that I have. Now, as far as the ongoing projects I currently have, there's a brain trust group, which you can sign up for. I know these are a lot of things, but these are all options to see how deep that you want to get in historical camping and try to help you get more involved and learn more and have a better experience with historical camping. My current project is I'm investigating the Preston cook kit and trying to reproduce that. So if you want to be part of that process, you can sign up for my brain trust and follow me every step of the way and help me make good decisions about that process. So it's on the front page, 2 signups, one's for the newsletter and one's for the brain trust. Don't give out any of your information or anything. It's literally just for this type of communication. All right, lastly, if you would like to learn more about the Stonebridge lantern that I did a cool video on, it's a great historical artifact, check it out here. If you'd like to check out my suggested camping list of things that you want to take with you, especially now that hunting season's coming out and a lot of you are probably going to go camping more with the cooler weather, check it out here. I hope you guys have a wonderful week. Give a kiss out to your loved ones, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care.